The Miller family had always dreamed of turning their love for baking into something bigger. Sarah Miller, the mother of two, was a gifted baker whose kitchen often smelled of sugar, cinnamon, and fresh bread. Her chocolate chip cookies melted in your mouth. Her pies carried the perfect flaky crust, and her cupcakes looked like tiny works of art. Friends and neighbors frequently told her, Sarah, you should open a bakery, but she never had the money for a storefront. With little savings and limited resources, she decided to begin small, from the heart of her own home. She poured her soul into each loaf of bread, every batch of cookies, and each decorated cupcake, never imagining that this passion of hers would soon spark a battle with the very association that was supposed to protect her neighborhood. Every morning, Sarah woke up before sunrise. She tied her apron around her waist, brushed flour from her hands, and carefully prepared trays of cookies, muffins, and bread. The sound of timers chimed through her kitchen, and the smell of fresh baking drifted out into the neighborhood. Children walking to school slowed down as they passed her house, whispering to each other in excitement, hoping she might offer free samples. Parents stopped by on their way home from work to buy bread or a pie for dinner. Within weeks, Sarah's little home bakery became the heart of the street. People gathered outside her yard, chatting as they waited for their orders, laughing with neighbors, and building connections that hadn't existed before. Sarah believed she was doing more than baking. She was creating a sense of family, community, and happiness. But while most neighbors loved what Sarah was doing, not everyone felt the same. Karen, the HOA president, was not impressed. Known for her cold demeanor and strict enforcement of rules, Karen believed that order came before joy. To her, Sarah's baked goods weren't a gift, they were a violation. One morning, Sarah opened her front door to find a bright white notice taped there. The bold black letters seemed to scream at her, "Cease all business operations immediately or face a $5,000 fine." Her hands trembled as she read it. She wasn't running a factory. She wasn't disturbing anyone. She was simply sharing her passion with her neighbors. That night, she sat at the kitchen table with her husband and whispered, "I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just doing what I love." Her husband reached for her hand and replied firmly, "Then don't give up. We'll fight this together." The very next day, Karen arrived in person. With her clipboard in hand and her voice sharp, she told Sarah coldly, "Your little bakery is against HOA rules. Shut it down or pay the fine." Sarah stood tall and looked her directly in the eyes. "Karen, this isn't about rules. This is about people. Families love what I bake. Children come here smiling. I will not shut down." Karen's lips tightened as she turned and walked away, but her presence left a heavy cloud of tension over the house. Sarah could feel the fight had just begun. Soon, the neighborhood was buzzing with talk. Some residents worried about the possibility of traffic or noise, but the majority rallied behind Sarah. They saw her bakery as something that brought warmth, joy, and togetherness. Parents explained how much their children adored Sarah's cookies. Others shared how her bread had become a tradition at their dinner tables. One neighbor even confessed that Sarah's treats had helped them through a difficult divorce. People signed a petition in her favor, proving that her little bakery had touched far more lives than anyone realized. Still, the HOA was not willing to bend. When the next HOA meeting took place, the hall was filled to capacity. Parents sat beside their children. Neighbors whispered in anticipation, and the tension was thick in the air. Karen stood at the front, her gavel in hand, and announced in a firm voice, "The HOA cannot allow commercial operations. If we bend the rules once, we lose control of this neighborhood." Murmurs spread through the room. A man stood up from the back and shouted, "This isn't a business. It's a blessing." Applause erupted. Another woman added, "Why punish someone for baking cookies when it brings happiness to everyone here?" The crowd clapped louder, drowning out Karen's attempts to restore order. Sarah finally rose to speak. Though her voice was calm, it carried strength. "I'm not just selling cookies," she said. "I'm building community. I'm creating smiles. When a child tastes a cupcake and laughs with joy, when families share my bread at dinner, that is what matters." That is why I bake." The applause that followed was deafening. Despite the support, Sarah knew words alone would not win. Late at night, after baking, she researched the law. That's when she discovered her state had cottage food laws protecting small home-based bakeries. As long as she followed basic health and safety rules, her bakery was perfectly legal. With this knowledge, she met with a lawyer who assured her that the HOA's $5,000 fine would not hold up in court. Armed with this new strength, Sarah prepared herself for the next battle. Then, everything changed when a local news station picked up her story. The headline flashed across the screen. Asterisk, HOA fines woman $5,000 for baking cookies. Asterisk reporters filmed Sarah pulling fresh bread from her oven. Her apron dusted with flour. Her face both tired and determined. The story spread across social media like wildfire. Thousands of people across the country expressed outrage that anyone could be punished for something as harmless and joyful as baking. Orders began pouring in from outside her neighborhood. And suddenly, Sarah's little bakery was more popular than ever. The HOA couldn't withstand the pressure. Their inbox filled with angry emails, online forums mocked them, and people across the city rallied behind Sarah. Karen herself became the target of harsh criticism. Finally, the HOA backed down. The $5,000 fine was canceled, and new rules were drafted to allow community-based businesses like Sarah's to thrive. It was a victory not just for Sarah, but for anyone who believed passion and kindness should not be crushed by paperwork and rigid rules. On Saturday morning, Sarah hosted a thank you bake sale in her yard. The smell of cinnamon rolls, pies, and cookies filled the air as families gathered. Children ran with frosting on their faces. Parents laughed as they bought bread and shared stories, and neighbors felt closer than ever. The bake sale was more than just a chance to share treats. It was a celebration of unity, courage, and triumph. Even those who had once supported the HOA found themselves standing in line, happily buying cupcakes. Some said they even saw Karen herself quietly purchasing a cookie when she thought no one was watching. For Sarah, this victory was never about money. It wasn't about beating the HOA. It was about love, passion, and proving that community matters. As she handed a warm cookie to a smiling child, she realized that her fight had shown something bigger, that kindness, joy, and togetherness will always be stronger than the cold words of rules written on paper.